Hi, and welcome to Conscious Awareness TV. Today is November 14th, 2014. Excuse me. Oh my gosh.
You're ahead of yourself.
I'm ahead of myself. Okay, bringing it back to 2013. Thank you all the listeners that are joining us today. And if you do have any questions, please write in. But we do want to let you know that you will have to create a login. But do ask questions because Jeanie and I are both here to answer any questions you have. And we are welcoming back Jeanie Lemaire to the show. We thought it was going to be December, but something came up yesterday and Jeanie was available. And we're going to be talking about what a difference a day makes. And really, what a difference a day makes.
Truly.
It's interesting because yesterday, when all this transpired in the show that was going to be on the guest that was going to be on the show, when she canceled, I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And so I made a few phone calls. I called Jeanie and she wasn't available, and then I called somebody else and he was, and then he wasn't. My point being is that this is all universal. And this is what Conscious Awareness TV is really all about, is being in consciousness of, in the moment that something is happening, whether it be good or bad, that we can consider as good or bad, that it really isn't. Mm-hmm. It's just being in that present moment of going, okay, and moving in with that and just going with the flow. So we are just going to fly off with this on what a difference a day makes. And, again, we welcome all of you to write in if you have any questions for us. So.
And subscribe, too.
Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and like us.
On
we'll
YouTube.
Get to that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get to the very end. We'll get to that, too.
Okay.
But, so, what a difference a day makes. I mean, you've been using, lately, I've been hearing you using that, and it's so true.
But we're not trained that way, Linda. We're trained with, we don't have like 6 months or a year to make this transition, the chances of it happening aren't great. So our own mental systems aren't really orchestrated to the moment of now making such a big deal. And I thought it was really funny because the gal had a medical emergency. She had to cancel. It wasn't like she's a flake. It isn't that.
No.
And my phone was off, so you couldn't reach me. And I think you had signed somebody up from a later show, and then lo and behold, he got a job, which of course he's got to get to his job. And by that time, you got back to me. And I was laughing because the day before and up to the morning, I was still coming back to myself, just being active and stuff. And I was like perked back in. So when you call, I'm like, well, of course, because I was planning to come up anyway after the show. I mean, It's like all those synchronistic kind of things. Right. And I just listened to you saying, okay, there's an answer here. I don't know quite what it is, but it's going to show itself.
Exactly.
And the truth is, we've been exchanging interactions since the last time I was on the show.
Yeah, and a lot has shifted since then. And really bringing conscious awareness. I mean, really bringing into my own awareness and the consciousness and bringing that to my attention of going, okay, where am I living? Where am I coming from in this moment? Because we talked about the physical, mental, and emotional, how those three gateways need to operate all in sync from the last show. But so much has happened between
then and now. So anyway, I want you to know, Linda and I don't prepare for the show in the sense of what people. We don't have a list, and we don't say we're going to talk about that and talk about that. We just get in and kind of wing it. And what she doesn't know is I'm in my Elvian mode today. Now, for those of you that know me and know my magical essences, which is how we perceive, one of the essences is the wizard essence, and that's me. And how it shows up on the planet is someone you can actually see by what they wear and how they are acting, that they are really 6 people in one. So the first show, it was a red letter day for me. I was in my fairy mode. I was ready. It was time to just say, oh my gosh, this is who I am. And they didn't put me away in a little white jacket. I was so excited. But what Linda doesn't know is when I mentioned to her about what a difference a day makes, it wasn't just the phrase. And I'm dating myself because I was talking to a younger friend of mine. Operative word is younger. And I said, gosh, it's, what a difference a day makes. And she's like, that's nice. And I go, no, don't you know that phrase? And she goes, no. I said, that comes out of a song long time ago. Oh. And of course, do I remember the title? I don't even know if that is the title, but there's a phrase, what a difference a day makes. And the next line is, the difference is you. And that's why on this show, I'm like, what a perfect time for us to get to know Linda. She is in the throngs of speeding like lightning, and growing into her total, larger, more magnanimous self. So if it's all right with you, and I don't know if they'll go with this, okay? I want you to know, I brought my little microphone, okay? Because I'm not used to being like a host, and so she'll remember I'm hosting. But what I'd like to do is get some specifics about, our meeting and what you already had lined up, to give them a little idea of what's been going on, because it's so incredible. You have so much to share, and I think they will understand the story. So the first part is, I hadn't met her before the show. Why would you? We talked. She's a professional, no problem. But we knew during the show, we fell in love. Oh, we fell in love. Now, don't get crazy on me. I'm not talking about that sexual stuff. I'm talking about person to person, energy to energy, vibration to vibration, and we just knew we were home with each other. We remembered each other from somewhere. Who cares what realm, what dimension? Yeah. So that went on. But I remember you telling me you had these wonderful spiritual journeys lined up before I even knew all that. Mm-hmm. So if you would, I want you to let us know from the time we had the show to like when you took your trip and how those were, because they're going to get an idea on just how quickly you've been going through this stuff.
So starting with the Italy trip?
Yes. Yeah. Spiritual journey.
Yeah. Well, that was an amazing, amazing trip. It was all about raising the consciousness and really awakening humanity. But we were doing it with energy work. So going from Rome to Valencia, we did a lot of healing and breaking down. There was so much stuff that you really can't. It's a very experiential thing.
Well, give us an example, like meditating, or you were like hearing voices, or how?
Yeah, well, the first thing that happened to me when I went into the Colosseum, I was taking pictures, and all of a sudden I looked up and I took a picture, and there was the violet flame, and there were orbs, and I knew in that moment that these beings really are there, and we just don't know it. I mean, I can say for myself, it's like I know there's angels, but I know it as an intellect. And this is when we talk about conscious awareness, is that when you really are in the awareness consciously of knowing like, wow, they are really there. Another thing happened. I was walking out of one of the basilicas, and I was looking at my phone, and this girl, she was watching this feather come down from above, and she said there was no bird. Oh. And she was trying to catch it herself, and it ended up going on some guy's shoulder, then it went off his shoulder and it landed on my thumb. So it was just things that you knew that things were happening. We did meditations that, always bringing you back into center and grounding, and
listening. You're kind of listening on other realms.
Absolutely.
What I mean by other realms is that you're listening for a sense of something, or that feeling of just knowing something. Like it's not something concrete or visual, or that you're actually hearing a voice, but it's like you can get a sense that you're picking up news from somewhere.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that?
Yeah, well, she would also after we would get done with the day, we would go into the meditation, and she would also tell us what we were doing that day and what things were happening, the beings of light, what they were bringing in. Oh, and good. So it was just a really magical journey, that knowing that I'm on this fast track. And because for me, what all of this, my mission, my goal, and what all of this really means to me, and why we're doing this show, is raising the consciousness, exactly. Raising the awareness in people. And I actually had told you that I want to take every man, woman, and child and raise a consciousness and bring them over to God's original divine plan. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. They need to have the journey and experience individually. And that was a huge awakening for me, because I realized, yes, then you would take people out of their journey and you'd bring them right into
your program.
This blessing. Well, yeah, this, the whole totality and everything, which really that's what we're here for. Is
exactly, but who put you in charge of the pace at which they go? See,
right.
That's what we'd like. Oh gosh, I hadn't thought of that, because I'm ready to go at lightning speed. Well, somebody else, they're taking a different path or a different timing.
Right.
So
right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So now, how long? And I mean, that's kind of profound. And you like you said, each day she was kind of alerting you what to kind of look for, mm-hmm. sort of. So you were pretty focused on what you weren't just like taking pictures and drinking Italian wine. It doesn't sound like.
No. I was focused, because this is my the work that.
But I mean, for how long? A week? 2 weeks?
It was 12 days.
12 days.
Yeah, it was 12 days.
So 12 days. Now I don't know about you folks, but I haven't traveled out of the country for a while. But I do remember on a trip, and anything over 3 or 4 days, You are in another realm. You're in another country. They're speaking a different language. They're using different money. They may have different rules of how to drive on the road. There's a lot of things that you're having to adjust to. So those are things that take our attention. So you have to get out of being American and all of a sudden become Italian. And in addition, she's doing a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if it were me, I'd need at least a month when I got back to, you know, kind of chill and get in with it. So did you like have a month when you got back?
No. No. And you know, it's interesting because people were like, how was the jet lag? And it's not even in my consciousness. So there was no jet lag. There was no anything. I came back, and then I was off again to do some more of the work. And really, this really ties into the coaching that I do, because it's not only raising my consciousness and bringing me to an awareness that I'm able to help other people, and it's not just on an individual basis, but it's also by us doing the show.
Absolutely.
And bringing people to that conscious awareness. So no, after that I came home, unpacked laundry and packed again, and then I was off to Washington for Tom Kenyon's retreat, which is really about the psychology in the left brain, right brain, and how balancing those in, which was very fascinating, on how we are so left brain linear and the right side is, you know, the creative. And it was interesting too, because he had this stage built up, or he had it created, that on the left side was where he spoke, which was the left brain, and on the right side was where he played all of his instruments. And he has like a 4-octave, amazing man. And so when he would go on the left side, because he'd be coming from his left brain, you know, the linear side, and he would be speaking, and then he'd go to the right side and he would play, and he really wouldn't speak from the right side. So it was just this psychology of really how the brain works and how the sound really brings us in touch with our soul.
Because, just to interrupt you for a moment.
No.
Sound comes before vision, and sound comes out of the emotional system.
Well, and wouldn't you agree too that at first there was the sound and then became word? Then the word, that's a biblical thing, yeah. So,
exactly.
But it's true. It's really interesting how sound, all that plays into. So, so I got done with that, and you know, and then coming home and working with.
This is what we're going to interrupt her now. She had those 2 trips planned. So when I came on the show in October, I'm another guest, and she's had wonderful folks, and will continue, and all that. But because of the strong connection, she goes to Italy, and like I said, you heard from her. She was focused and there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the next day after she got back, if not the second, and I'm not exaggerating, she's calling me because we had spoken about how I wanted to do my, 5-part plan with her, at some point, or at least start it. Well, being on a mission, she's home 7 days, 4 of those days, 2 of which she drove down to me an hour each way, and a 3-hour time with me, and then the other 2 days, 3 hours on the phone. 4 out of the 5 days she was home, we were interacting. So yes, she went to Italy. That was profound. Yes, and at Tom Kenyon. But in between, we did a program that's what's so amazing. And on the next show, I want you to know we'll go more into the 5-step program. So I'm not going to
Which will be December 5th.
December 5th. We're not going to speak so much about that,
right.
Other than I want to say is that, would you say if everything we did in those 4 days was understandable, or you knew where I was coming from, or you even, so many times you had to say, I don't know what you're doing, Jeanie, but I'm with you. I'm going. Okay, I'm with you. Whatever. Oh gosh, now the stomach a little. Okay. And you did. You you were in paddling. You were open to doing this totality work, coming from strictly your larger self down to the individual self.
Right.
And it wasn't that the self didn't have news for you, and certainly the mind had questions, and the emotional system came up.
They all 3 came up.
They did. Yes. They all just came up, which was so astounding. So she has the 2 trips planned, does one, then, jumps in the pond with me, and then moves on to this other. So with all of these going on, would you say there's been any change in how you're holding your life circumstances?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel so empowered. I can't really even explain it. I just feel this.
Don't mess with her. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, I guess feeling that I've really stepped into my power in a way that knowing, and it's really
confident.
it's confident, but we talked about this. It's remembering who we are.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm finally doing, is remembering who I am.
Not playing less than your total self,
No.
which is you're in charge of this world. And
Right.
we know that you're in charge, and you are designed to be able to handle anything that comes into this world. We can listen, we can support, but the actual doingness, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, whether it ends up in the social realm or the relationship realm or the job realm, all of those things are within you, but not a one of us is designed to do this alone.
Right.
I was just telling a friend of mine, everybody's got a home office. Everybody has to have their own computer, their own printer, their own this, their own that. And I'm like, that's lovely, and that's certainly convenient. But in life, we're designed to interact, or there'd only be one of us here at any given time.
Right.
There'd be no need. So the fact that so many people are here, no, we're not meant to know everybody. We're not meant to like what everybody's doing. We're not meant to, be in agreement. But we are here to accept that this is a bigger program than any one of us got a brochure on. I mean, we just didn't get the brochure on all that's possible.
Right.
So that's what's so fun. When you have a person here that says, I don't know how it'll turn out. Oh my gosh. And it's like fastening your seatbelt and getting on that roller coaster ride, and away
And
you
that's
go.
exactly, yeah.
That's how it's been.
Yeah, but it's, and really what I want to say to the viewers and listeners, that it could be scary, and we talked about this, and this is really the truth, and what's happening to people when they step into this, that it's uncomfortable, it's distressing, but
You
yet,
might lose a friendship or two.
Right.
Somebody thinking you're not being the way you always have been.
yeah, it could be a marriage, doesn't matter, it could be a business partner, friends, it doesn't matter, but I think the whole thing, what I realized, it's what your desire and the conviction behind what's your reasoning for doing this. And again, it's for me to step into my remembering who I am and know that I am in charge of my world, because in the end all we have is ourselves. And I tell that when I coach people, so I know that, but to come from that space, sometimes it's really hard.
Absolutely, and that's why certainly you are in charge of your space, so in that way you're quote alone, but I'm telling you, you were never meant to feel alone. You were never meant to have it housed that anything, good, bad, or indifferent happened, you were supposed to be punished over.
Right.
And we've been on a punishment program.
Right.
Getting punished for telling our truth, or getting punished for speaking up when someone else doesn't want to hear it, and oh gosh golly, they're in charge of the business, so we lost our job. So this isn't the kind of thing where all of a sudden you just get all the ducks in a row, but it is, as you keep working with and keep telling your truth, it allows that other person or the company and folks to go, wow, I see, she's not against us. She's for herself and humanity. That's what you say in conscious living. You're for yourself, and yourself as a representative living consciously for all of life. Because I've always said, if we're all having more fun, we wouldn't have to have any disarray, because some people have fun skydiving, some like to climb Mount Everest, not my cup of tea, some on the beach. There's room for all of us to experience and have things work out for us.
Right. Well, I think what was important too is when working together and coming to this place, which there's still more to go, but what I realized too was, where am I realizing that at the time that I made decisions, it was not honoring all three parts. And now that it's like, when I talk about something or I make a decision, now I'm asking myself, who's in charge? Who is it? Is it the mental? Is it the emotional? Who's speaking here? So I think that's really important too, that we really come down to that and see in the moment before we make a decision, and even after we make the decision, right? We can make it from the mental, but the emotional's going, this is not right, and so
you can change it.
Exactly, you can change it.
I'm going to interrupt here a minute, because not all of you saw the first show, so we kind of go in sync, but I just want to briefly take a moment and tell you what she's talking about.
Yes.
I am an author. I have 2 books out, and for those that know me, the first book's called The Body Talks, and I Can Hear It. And that's literally, I go in and work with an individual's physical, mental, and emotional representatives. So when she talks about these 3 gateways, I call them team players, but we do have avenues to access how we're thinking on a topic, how it physically feels to us, and emotionally, if we're really on board with it or not. And as we bring those on board in ourselves, then that translates out into the world, that your life works better. Because you're now getting a 3D, or I call it a 3-legged stool, all 3 legs being the same level, And being colleagues, we can hear from whichever system has the news about that situation. So that's what she's talking about, the three. And just real quickly, I spoke earlier about being Elvian. So in my work, the second book's called The Magical Essence of Being, Human and Divine. And I'm referring to that. This totality is like our divinity, like our universal self, our higher self. There's any number of terms you can use it. It's also another way to speak it is accessing all knowledge, or the Akashic records and all. All that awareness is available to us. We've just forgotten or kind of tuned out that bit of news. And so I put it in terms of 5 essences. The wizard, as I mentioned, is all 6, because you need one presence that stirs everyone up, or all the angelics will just do the angelic thing and not, interact with the others. Same with a fairy, dwarvian, you've got elvian, unicorn. And so, like I said, last time I was here, was a red letter day. It was bright dress. It was fairy-like. I was so excited, to be able just to kind of come out of the spiritual closet, so to speak. And I wanted to dress that. So again, today I wanted to dress in the Elvian movement, mischievous part. So that's the part of me that said, I'm bringing my microphone, and just maybe Linda will let me play in her pond. Because all these things we've been doing, it's like, sometimes you call a friend and maybe you're back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 6 months. I mean, we can't get enough of each other 2 or 3 times a day. I'm like, oh, this other thought came up. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so glad you called. Not like, well, okay, what is it? Like we have already talked about this. No, we're all like, what about this? What about this? So that's that upward spiral of enthusiasm, meeting up with energy, meeting up with creativity. So as she says, when you leave lack, fear, and doubt, lack in the physical, fear in the mental, doubt in the emotional, and move into belief, faith, and trust, then all of a sudden the same situation that just would have made you miserable for months and you had to tell your friends about comes and goes. Yes, you have it. Do you get distressed? Yes. Do you get upset? Yes. Are you startled? You bet. Are you a little fearful?
Yesterday,
Absolutely. So she could have easily gone, oh my gosh, what do we do? And instead, her system said, okay, I don't know what's up, but I'm just going to do what one does, which is say,
I knew that the universe had a bigger plan. It really came back down to that. So it was knowing.
And you have to know, we were saying, oh gosh, I have to, tapping my spiritual foot, we have to wait till December 5th. Oh gosh, I really want to get out there sooner. But she had people planned. I wasn't in dislodging anyone. No. Wouldn't it work out? One person, had medical reasons, had to cancel. One person tried to change, but then it turned out couldn't. Yes. And by that time, it's like, of course, I'm not coming to see you after the venture. We are the venture.
Right.
How cool is that? A win for everyone. We talk about that, a win for everyone.
So let's go back to what a difference a day makes.
Yes.
Because you were saying that, not what I was saying was your interpretation of what a difference a day makes.
Mm-hmm. Besides, it really, a day does make a difference. And as she was pointing out, from yesterday to today, we had a difference. And we had a difference that worked for everyone. And nobody would have known that ahead of time. There was no way to plan.
Right.
But what I'm referring to is that we just don't realize that everything truly is in this now vibration. Meaning that anything that's going on now that gets joyously resolved, brought up, resolved, dissolved, opens up another experience of now. So it's true every single day, every single moment. But again, I wanted to use movies and song titles because I hear totality in them. What a difference a day makes. But really, the difference is you. And you, our technician. We have a technician extraordinaire.
Yes.
How did we luck out? I mean, a lot of people know these things, but he's like with us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we're all in agreement on all the topics. He's fully with us. We're a team. We don't have to worry about who's in charge or who did this or who's talking to whom. That's the kind of thing. So then we get to bring in 3 whole worlds.
Right.
So literally in the notion of what a difference a day makes in any moment. I have a friend right now, and she's in the building industry, new building. And she would just love, for all the builders she's worked with, and she's probably watching the show, I'm just telling you, to get on board with how magnanimous she is and how she wants a win for everyone, but they're on a different track. And while she's trying to get them on board, they're not being real pleasant. But she's finally moved back. I could have had a V8. I'm going to go back to what I love to do, which is to build community. So in this time where the sales aren't happening, She sold almost 10 in a month.
So when you're saying you make the difference,
You, the world of you and you.
Right.
So you connecting to you makes the difference. You had a situation come up yesterday that we know as Linda.
Right.
And Linda and you went a different route than Linda might have done 10 years ago.
Okay, so we're talking about little, because I just want for the viewers and listeners to get a kind of idea.
Yeah.
So when you're saying the little, we're talking about the little
individual self.
The individual self. Well, the larger self is of totality.
That we're all a part of.
That we're all a part of, right.
Yeah. Call it divinity,
Right.
call it whatever you want.
And you also mentioned too about things coming up in surfacing and being released. I think that's important for the viewers and listeners to know as well, that when things, because things did come up for myself, I can say a lot of things were surfaced physically, emotionally,
past memory,
everything that were coming up. And so it's in those moments that most of the time people want to retreat.
Exactly.
We want to retreat. We want to find, get busy and do something to where we're not feeling that. We're not, we just try to divert ourselves.
Exactly.
And so what you're saying, and what I know from experiencing, is it's when this is coming up is to let it rise. And it's almost like you're taking a look at it in your face and saying, here it is, And what I think is so great is that when you can actually speak to that.
Yes.
And you were really very good at, that I was able to speak to that, you being that person, place, or thing, being able to speak to that. So it really is important that when things are coming up, because when we start this fast track on life, or if you're just beginning this this journey, that is to be in the conscious awareness of, here's an experience, whether we think it's good or bad, because I don't think there's any good or bad. It's just an experience to be able to grow and evolve. And so when that happens, is to take a look at that and go, wow, here's an experience. It's very uncomfortable because, again, we can't lie to ourselves and say, oh, I can get over this. This is a piece of cake. Well, the fact is, it's not.
No.
It's distressing, but I know, and I love what you say, is how in totality, there's a lesson.
And there's also an acceptance that this is part of our growing.
Right.
Not necessarily changing things, because a lot of us will change relationship or we'll change jobs,
it's not about
and then
that,
we realize we took ourselves with us, or go on vacation.
And it's wherever you go, there you are.
Exactly.
You take yourself with you wherever you go. That's actually a really good book, because there's a book out by that.
Of course, there's a book out on everything. That's why I said if you could just read it, we'd all be done. And you only really need 3 of these books and you'd be done. That's what we're saying, is it must be experienced. The system that provides that is our emotional system. You can't measure it, you can't grade it, but you can bring it forth. Like when we talk about something, so say you have an upset with your friend Susie, and you're talking to Mary, and you say, Mary, that's Susie, what was she thinking? As we talk about Susie, it just adds more fuel to the upset. So when people come to me and want to tell me about their distress, if I'm hearing them talking about somebody or situation, I'll say, excuse me, do you mind talking to them, and I'll listen. So just getting them to shift to talk to them, then Susie might say, or Mary might say, oh gosh, well, Susie, what did you mean by that? Because, I thought we were friends, and then you just abruptly said we, can't do this. And Susie probably was just in a hurry and wasn't trying to hurt Mary's feelings, but that's what showed up for Mary for all the times people that had happened. But in talking to Susie, and I just have the person either on the phone, I say, what else? Or if I'm in person, I nod my head so they know I've received it. So we get to bring out our vulnerability and bring out our distress. And that's what I'm saying, bring it out, have it, get to resolve it, and then it dissolves, and then those kind of situations don't seem to show up as much.
Right.
Or when we feel victimized. I hate that. When we feel like, well, I'm the nice person and everybody always, goes on me. So I'm in there, when I work with people, I get my internal little dukes out and go, what can we do? What can we do? Come on, let's get those dukes out. Boom, boom, boom. What do you mean? What do you mean? And who put you in charge? And I get people to get feisty. In that feistiness, they're building and remembering their self-worth. They're remembering they have every right to have whatever experience they're having. I'm not against somebody else having a point of view. I'm just saying, when it comes to me, mine's going to take precedence.
And that's a great place to be when you're at that point of going, when you reach that point, you're like, enough is enough.
Yes.
And when you got that dukes, when that's when that's actually, I think that's a really, again, it's like I can speak for myself and say, oh, I want to be loving and kind, and I don't want to be mean, but
we found some energy for her. I won't talk outside or get specific, but we found some energy. And I just could only say to her, "You go, girl. You go." I mean,
well, that kind of brings me back to these essences that you talk about. Because first, we thought I was a unicorn, which I'm an angelic.
Because she's so quiet here. See, and on the show, so adaptive and all. Now, any of us can be quiet. And none of these things are stamped in gold, or doesn't mean we don't have all traits around us. But we have some that we like more. They resonate for us. So it took a little while being around her to realize that as an angelic, she was just allowing people to walk over in her kindness and being a nice person. She was a nice person, but unfortunately, sometimes other natures, or if we're offline, or way offline, I've been there myself, I've had to apologize to all my friends. Yes. When that happens, you can at least know within yourself what's up, and you can know what other people are up to. I'm telling you, we're telling each other news all the time, not the particulars, but all news about us all the time.
Right.
And then when you see, oh yeah, there's my angelic friend out of line or offline, you're going to hear their martyrdom and their victimhood, because it's going to be real strong in the angelic. We can all do it.
Where did all these come from? I mean, the wizard, and how did they come about into
That's the amazing thing. So if I mentioned last time, I'll briefly say, when I walked into this form, I had to complete out the work of the little girl's body I got into. And I did that in 1984. I had done a program like she did, a week-long outdoors, was wonderful. And one of the things they mentioned was, what do you want to leave on the mountain? And I realized I was leaving Jean on the mountain. That's how I was born. And I became instantly Jeanie, Jeanie. So it sounds like the magical genie, but spelled differently. Yes. And from that point on, I was already doing massage work, but things just popped up. I could see things, get things. When people told me they were telling me the story, I said, oh, let's just get in it. The moment I say that, the person on the table is shaking, and I'm there. And again, in my CDs, which I didn't mention earlier, but these are 7 CDs that can be purchased as a group or individually on my webpage, JeanieLemaire.com. And so I do tell in the intro, if you're interested, about this gentleman who came to me. And he was had I don't know, 20, 30 operations for this bad accident he'd had on the family farm. He thought everything's fine. He was so happy-go-lucky until he started having trouble sleeping. Yeah. So I won't go any further, but it's real fun. And I had another story of someone. So soon after popping into all this, I had moved to Texas, and these presences came, and we were together, and all of us were like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. He had no idea what he was housing, none whatsoever. And it was showing up physically now. It couldn't be sustained and put under the mental lid. It was finally bubbling up.
When you say showed up physically, what does that look like?
I'm saying we got to be in the experience of the event that he hadn't actually experienced. He'd gone into shock. Yes. And he'd gone into such shock, he could not have the experience, because had he had it at that time, he probably would have died.
Okay, got it. I thought you meant the experiences of the different essences.
Oh yeah, no. But all I'm saying is,
right.
Wrong. I ship change, let's pull back. I'm saying that with all this came an awareness, this program that I knew is just me. It just makes sense to me, and the verbiage comes out. 6 awarenesses, 2 ways to speak on. 1 through the mental doorway, 1 through the emotional. And so you've got angelic opposite wizard, you've got fairy opposite dwarvian, you have elvian opposite unicorn. And in the eons of time and timelessness, the elf unicorn folks look more like themselves. They're about similarities. And if you see a husband and wife, they'll look like, I don't know if you've ever gone to a real pond, you see the ducks, they're all in a row, and the little ducks falling behind, they're all the same, and they're all doing the same thing. And I was doing a book signing at One Borders one time. This husband and wife comes in with the 4 kids, and the wife says, okay, you've all got 15 minutes. And they all went dashing off in their little duck mode and stuff, but they're all elvian, all unicorn. You could tell they were all similar. They were dressed alike. I mean, the 4, because they were all in khakis, and and that would be elvian unicorn. That's going to be nature loving and animal loving and earth loving. And so it's just it just shows up so hugely. Now again, when we're offline, nothing shows up hugely, and when we're in trauma and drama,
what is offline? When you say offline,
offline is so online is when we're presenting our best self. That's when you can kind of see somebody's essence. It shows up, and then offline, you get a little tired, you get a little cranky, you know, you're not quite yourself, you're not way off, but you're fussy. Fussy's a good word.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's an angelic who's like, yeah, I want to help.
Kind of reminds me of the Seven Dwarfs, grumpy.
There you go, exactly.
Yes,
exactly. Same kind of program.
Exactly.
So, and then there's way offline called survival. And I'm telling you, when we're in survival, any of us, we have to survive. It is not a question of being any one way, totality or individual self. You must survive. And I think I mentioned last time, in survival, because I got a background in swimming, life-saving, you don't come, on top of the water. You would think you want to alert them, I'm coming, but they're in survival. So you go down under the water and you assist them up. And that's why my 5-step program, I'll be talking to you about going underneath and boosting people in a way they don't really know how they're being helped. They feel better, but they can't see where the help is coming from. Because I'm going inside with them. And like I said, I had one woman one time, because I ask questions as I go along. I said, wow, I asked you, who all the support people are in your life? And I said, I noticed you didn't mention me, because we'd worked several times. She turned to me instantly, tears coming out of her eyes, saying, she says, you're not out here, you live inside with me.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a statement.
Yes.
I'm like, well, how honored can a being be?
Right.
That's it. So that's why I say, and somebody asked me recently, because I'm always talking about investing. I invest in humans. I really do, which means we may or may not get dollar bills at this time or payment. Because I know whether it's this lifetime or next, there's never a bad investment. And so a friend of mine called and said, why are you interested? I mean, no offense, but why? And I said, because that's what I'm here and get to do. I get to help humanity wake up and remember, things about themselves that just got put on the back burner. How cool is that?
Yeah, yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh.
So would you say that, because I just have this question that keeps coming, because the listeners and viewers, I just feel like they're going, okay, this whole elven dwarf, are those the essences of them in relationship to the dwarves, the elvians, the angelics, the unicorns? Because unicorn is an animal, right?
Right. And we do have visual. I'm taking invisible terms of who we are. Just think of, you're a presence before you're in your baby skin suit. We know you've arrived because you come in that baby skin suit.
Well, when you say presence, though, we know we're a soul.
Right. But we have consciousness. So I know other practitioners, but I've worked with people that had issue prior to getting in their baby skin suit, even prior to the womb. So they remembered things. Our soul is eternal, so we go in and out of bodies, but our conscious, our expanded,
that stays with us
all the time. But the thing is about these skin suits, what I'm talking about is, yes, you go out of the skin suit, when you're out in the vast blissful void, we'll call it, because that's what we like to use, that term. Yes. But in truth, when you come back into some form, you're going to pick up some version, at least in the human portion, of a skin suit that matches your essence. It's like if you're going to have a scientific study, if you're going to do a scientific study, you got to have some parameters. So if we're going to know if we actually grew, did we not? Here's some of the parameters. And that is that if you come in dwarving, I'm going to say male or female, it's not based on that, it's based on your humanity, you're going to find that person stockier. And in general, the midsection will be kind of in the middle of their body. They'll have a larger torso, and the legs will be a little shorter. Now that could be at this height, or 6'7", if they've got a long torso and long legs. Right. But these are good-looking people, whether they exercise or not, and they're sturdy, and they're very helpful in the earth plane. So we'll be doing more with Essence, but what I'm saying is each of these programs, each one of them carry traits that are more important to that person. So when we talk angelic, that's why you see her here, she's into kindness, she's into gentleness. She can feel people's pain. She can't help it, whether they're saying everything's fine or not. So she doesn't want anybody in pain. She doesn't want to be in pain. Yeah. So the totality of her, that's this presence, wants to help people. Well, as we know, sometimes folks aren't up to being helped. And sometimes their help goes unappreciated. So that's when they can help and help and help, and then they get tired, and then they get cranky, and they help and help and help, because they really like to do that. And then they can get kind of martyrish and victimhoodish.
Well, let's talk about that too, because I think that's interesting when we talk about helping people, because you can help to where you're enabling them.
Bingo.
So it's where you have to, because you talk about that, one of the CDs I was listening, or we just talked about, there's so many things we talk about that I can't keep track, but yeah,
no idea.
we have a lot of conversations, but it's about when you retreat.
Yes.
I think it was on one of your CDs.
Oh,
I was
good.
listening to, that when you retreat, you know, when you know that when you're assisting that person and you're giving the wisdom and your all, right, to that person, and then you see that person not really wanting to shift and change. That's when you're retreating. It may have been when we did the runestones or two. I can't remember, but
we have no idea. We have many programs, but I can say it's about, you have to at some point know: are you giving for you? Are you giving for them?
Right.
Because I have to tell you, we like our traits, okay? And Angelic likes to give. So I mean, that's just like a fun thing to do. So that's what's hard. Is it you, Linda, wanting to give to feel better about yourself? Or is it you, Linda, seeing that what you have to offer at the moment is not receivable by the other person? That's honoring their world, whether they're online, offline, very offline, and in survival. Because you have to know, if we keep talking about this being one, right?
Right.
Okay, and God dwells within you as you. We have the phraseology, but I don't know a person out there that would really say God, as we interpret him to be, is really inside us. So we're kind of, you know, nebulous about all that. So it's like we're aware of our totality. We just haven't been playing in that part of our self-consistency, which is why, as Linda and I talk and interact and do our programs and have a we of a time, you're going to get a chance to see our interaction, because this is not only a live show, it's a live version of the live show. It's not a practiced version of the live show. We have no idea. We put a title out there, What a Difference a Day Makes. And from the
in
moment
2014.
we met, and exactly, and she's
I'm
I'm
already in 2014.
That's right. She's like
leapfrogging,
exactly. But we're going to reel her in a little bit, get out the reel and reel her in a little. But we certainly don't want to dampen the enthusiasm or curtail the energy or not see good things happen in her life story. Those we want to continue. So that's why I say, you know, we are so two ends of a similar unending story.
Right.
So she has her earthly experiences, I have mine, but there's nothing between the two of us that can't in some way, and that's why she's good with questions, get the news to you. That's why we like to hear questions from you. This is a vast topic, and people might think, so what does this mean to me? You know, what all you've said, you're talking essence, you're talking totality. I'm telling you, there's not an activity on this earth plane that is not handled by either your physicality, your mentality, or your emotionality, or two of them or all three. I'm just telling you, there's not an item that either needs mental consideration or emotional remembering or a physical action. But we have been so overloaded and not had our own systems do a job. When I work with people on this and we meet up with their systems, oh my God, they have rocks in the mental, they've got a pool of muck in the emotional, and we can't even find the physical. Well, how can those gateways help you if your own gateways aren't refreshed? That's computer term. If they're not refreshed, so that you get a current boost with the person you are. That's what growth is about. We can't use old terms, old tools for this growth. And that's why, like I said, I adapt it to Tai Chi. Because, you know, people come to Tai Chi, they hear the words, you're doing the move soft and continuous, like you're moving through heavy air. And we say, oh gosh, soft and continuous. We know the words, but we didn't get it. What we get is by 7 or 8 times down the road, the person will say, oh, you mean soft and continuous, like I'm moving through heavy air. And I'll say, yeah, that's what I mean. Exact same words, but it filtered to more parts of them. So, did you get it?
Yeah, we have a question too. Can you speak about our next evolutionary shift, and how can those of us who are striving to higher levels of consciousness achieve the next level?
Bingo, that's 2 questions in one. So I'll speak and then she'll speak. We'll give her a minute. So the first thing about it is we got to clear out. I know we harp on that, harp all the time about clearing out your past, any upsets, any hurts, because as totality heads home to itself, it can only do it in totality. It can't do it taking a hurt or a slight or an upset with it. So we have to clear out plenty of organization programs, but it's not just that. That's why I say when folks come to me, they're not just clearing. The next thing is they're open. We got to fill them with good news. So when people bring a judgment my way and say, well, Jeanie, you should do that, I go, oh, so sorry, no room. Thank you for sharing, but I appreciate you had that thought. So we have to keep clearing. And I can tell you, as we clear, it's like taking the lid of how we were told to be. You have to be a nice person. You have to lie to others, because if you tell them the truth, it's not pretty. We don't realize in a lot of our training, and then there's our culture and our races and our religion that keep us from being our natural in the moment self. But once we can take some of those off in a safe environment, we're not here to harm anybody, our natural cork buoyance. So now, on your other question, this evolutionary shift, we talked about 2012, December 21st, 2012. The mind's like pinpoint, but it's really been 3 years, 2011, 12, and 13. It's kind of why she's on to 2014, because she finished up 2013 last week. So she's on to, because at the end, like I said in the cable car, we were headed away from ourselves. We have been slowly, like a cable car in San Francisco, being turned around. By the end of 2013, which is coming up, we are going to know where we're headed. Wow, that's that 1,000 years of peace they talk of. We're going to all get on the same page, realizing everybody gets to be honored, everybody gets to be heard, everybody gets to be included, everybody gets to be loved and loving. We get to have that being all together in oneness, even though we're in individual skin suits. So that's what is coming. We are getting ready. That's why things we've been trying to have happen, the healthcare business. I mean, both Clinton and his wife, they were very good and articulate on a program, but we weren't ready. We were still swimming away from totality. But not that we're happy about it as much now, but we're starting to begin to see, oh, if the planet works for everybody with no one and nothing left out, that includes me. That includes my life. That includes my abundant flow. That includes whatever I'm interested in doing and having it work for me and my family. And then we're thinking, oh, yeah, can't happen. Not in separation. It can't happen. The one side of the river to the other is too broad.
Yeah.
But when you start moving into your own totality, and you can feel like you start having hope. Hope, I mean real hope, not like, oh, I hope it actually, I want that to happen. But I mean real hope, like, oh my gosh, it might really be possible. In that moment, bingo, things happen, and we call them miracles and synchronicities. And I'm always telling Linda and all my friends, you don't know it, but all of you are living your life perfectly in orchestration for me to have exactly what I need when I need it. And I need a lot of help. I'm just telling you, this planet, I need help. And I've gotten and received help in ways we just don't think are possible. Right. And it's because I include everyone. Everyone's with me. I make time to talk. If I say to someone I don't have time to talk, they know I'm really tired, because they know I'm going to get back to them. So I'm just saying that's what's in all of us. And when you have that enthusiasm, you have more energy to produce those results. Right.
And so from my perspective, because she speaks of totality and also, bringing it down. So for me, so I'm going to read your question again, because I was so in listening to her totality. So can you speak about our next evolutionary shift, and how can those of us who are striving to higher levels of consciousness achieve the next level? For me, evolutionary shift is about in the moment of that conscious awareness, in the moment of that situation, that experience, that you are aware and you recognize, something is different than what I perceived that to be. Could have perceived it be that person was after me, or out to get me, or this is a bad experience. So for me, what I feel in the evolutionary shift is when you shift. It's about evolving and growing in your consciousness to be aware and growing, excelling in that to get to higher. I mean, again, I would probably ask, when you say of higher level, what does that mean? I mean, higher levels of ascension.
You're hearing that you are experiencing more joy, support, connection, all those kinds of things.
But once you shift your perception, that's what I'm saying, is if you're going to an evolutionary shift, it's shifting your perception. And you have a choice in every moment you have a choice in every moment to perceive how you want to perceive that situation. So what I'm saying, is about the evolutionary shift, is it's in your consciousness. Because once you shift that and you go, okay, wait a minute, there's a lesson here. There's something for me to learn. And in that moment, there's no longer, I feel the distress. Mm-hmm. that now I can come from a different place.
Or you're welcome to have the distress so you can move on to another feeling.
Well, yeah, because then it's about choice. So that's how I feel that you can move from this different direction.
So what we're hearing you say in this question is, we're wanting to view from a broader base. So you can refer to ascending to fifth ascension and all those things, other realms and dimensions, but we're saying it starts with each of us, and it starts inside here. It's like there's X amount of space. Even though we're porous, we kind of close it in. So we have to clear the space, open it up, and on belief, faith, or trust, act differently than we did the day before.
But there's other people, viewers and listeners out there who may not even know what the fifth dimension is.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But this person was. I'm just saying, if you're talking about ascending to the higher self as fifth dimension where you don't need bodies or other realms. But in this world, in this third dimensional world, it is about seeing through a broader base vision of which you are fully a part of, and a huge contribution to everybody else. And it's connecting with people, not just emailing them, not just Twittering, but actually connecting with folks, because then you'll begin to see yourself in everybody else.
Yeah, so it's in that evolutionary, it's just shifting, definitely.
Yeah. And I'm so happy to see myself and Linda. Oh, it's so fun. Okay, good. You turn it back. Yeah. I'm signing off. I'm going to turn back over to her.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I guess one thing I would like to ask you, so if there's one thing, well, first of all, you can let the viewers and listeners know how they can get in touch with you.
Oh, good.
How can they get in reach?
Okay, phone is good, area code 909-835-3137, or on the webpage, Jeanie Lemaire, JeanieLemaire.com, and that has all the information too. And gosh, ask one of your friends, or it's like the more we link up, the more all of us will feel more in our knowingness, more in our aha, more in our I get it mode. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we're after.
So if there was one thing that you would like to leave with the viewers and listeners, what would that be? Just an inspirational or something that you've really, throughout your life, that you've gotten?
In 2 seconds or less. Yes. I'm going to say what's really so awesome to me is that we're all here. We all are such a contribution to each other. You are, you, the one who's watching the show, you are such a contribution. We may haven't noted that yet, and in that respect, I'll apologize for all of humanity. You are a gift, and literally, this world wouldn't be half as nice a place as it is without you. So just know your value is intact. We don't experience it every day, but I'm here to say you are a gift to all of us, and I invite you to whatever program suits you to bring that news home to you every day, like Linda's saying, in the moment. I'm a value, and this particular situation doesn't suit me. And then how can I go about shifting? And one of the ways, again, is getting support from others, not just the moan and groan, but actually having somebody hear it, talking it out, or for some it's writing in a journal, whatever's your best way to get any disruption out of you. Because as that natural cork, you're going to come up in your incredible, magnificent, priceless self. And how cool is that?
Wonderful. Well, thank you to all the viewers and listeners that joined us today. Thank you to Jeanie. Thank you to Alan.
Thank you to Linda. Thank you for sharing all about your spiritual journeys.
Thank you. And Akasha Healing Studios for having us, film here today. None of this would be possible without all of you. And we look forward to next week. We'll have on Phyllis Gottschall, and she'll be talking about awakening the dream or changing the dream. And if you missed today's show, you can go to our YouTube channel by going to Conscious Awareness TV and listening to all of our archive shows.
Yeah, and it takes a minute, so don't please check back. We ask you to check back.
And if you subscribe, you will be notified of when the show gets posted. So, and if you like the show, like us. So thanks again for joining us today, and thanks for being back, and we'll look forward to having Jeanie back in December too. So thank you so much.